Hi everyone, my name is Justine, and I was homeless when I was 19. So, some of the stuff that I saw when I was homeless was, well, to start, there was a bus right outside of Cass Homeless Shelter. Not right outside, but like kind of around the corner from it. And so, every day that I was there, I would, like a lot of other people at the homeless shelter, I would walk around this, like, it's like a long sandy area. There's a sidewalk on it, whatever. I'd walk about a minute or two, and then I'd turn the corner, and there'd be like this little bus stop. Well, one of the things that I saw at this bus stop was, I was standing there waiting for the bus, and I saw a drug deal happening right in front of me. And they were selling heavy drugs. I think it was like cocaine or meth or something. And the guy was like, this like cokehead came up to him, or these tweakers came up to him, and um, they were like, oh yeah, is it free? And the drug dealer guy was like, no, it's not free. Are you stupid? And so yeah, I thought that was kind of bizarre. And then on the bus, there were a lot of different characters on the bus. There was this one guy that was wearing like a ski mask or something like that on the bus the whole ride through. And I didn't know what was up with that, but I found it kind of funny. But another thing I saw at Cass Homeless Shelter, inside of the shelter, was there was a lot of prostitution going on, a lot of hookers hanging around Cass Homeless Shelter. There'd be like a bench, and there'd be a woman provocatively laying on it, spreading her legs out and shouting out, things that prostitutes would say. Oh, I'll pay me this much, and I'll pay me $100, and I'll give you a blowjob for an hour, things like that. And I was like, whoa, like I had never, been around that kind of stuff before I was 19 and homeless. And then there was this guy that tried to walk into the homeless shelter. Well, I should start off saying that the Cass Homeless Shelter doesn't discriminate against any criminal record at all. So you could commit the most horrible crime, and you'd be welcome into the Cass Homeless Shelter. But there was this guy that was a rapist that actually walked into the homeless shelter, and there was over 20 people just yelling out, rapist, rapist, get out, we don't want you here, and yelling things like that. And I was like, just, sitting back and like observing it. And so I was like, whoa, like that is just something that is just, I was very out of my comfort zone. And I was just like in shock that that I saw all of that. And there were a lot of women there that had AIDS, that were very open about having AIDS. And I was like, oh, thank God I'm not sexually active. At the time, I wasn't sexually active at all. I was a virgin. And so, of course, I didn't have AIDS because I was a virgin. And I also would never do prostitution or any of the things that the women there did. I also got offered like tequila. Like there'd be a guy with a little flask full of alcohol, and he'd be like, hey, do you want a sip? And I'd be like, no, I don't want to drink that because because I just don't. And he could have spiked it with stuff. It maybe poisoned it. Like he was a total stranger. Of course, I'm not gonna drink from a flask of a stranger. So, yeah, there was a lot of craziness. There were a lot of fights that went down. Just a lot of things that I was just very, very out of my comfort zone. But, you know, after a while, you start to get like entertained by some of it. And, you know, and the important thing is that when you're around that stuff, to not get involved. And so I made sure, like, don't get involved, you know, don't mind your own business. If you see something happen, only report it if it's like absolutely necessary. Like if you see someone shoot someone in the leg, for example, like, you know, you have to report that because there's like a ton of blood involved. But yeah, very, very, very out of my comfort zone when I was there. And so yeah, and every time I left the shelter, I left with my own group of people, and we would travel on foot together and watch out for each other. That way none of us, you know, nothing happened to any of us, you know, walking on foot alone, you know. So it was me and two other couples. We were all a group while I was there, and you know, we hung out, we made jokes together, we went to go get breakfast and lunch when it was time for that. We went on the light rail to use as transportation, and we also, you know, we went into stores, you know, got some hot dogs to eat together. We didn't have much money, of course, you know, like, what do you expect from homeless people, or people at a homeless shelter? I don't know if that's considered, you know, like solid homelessness. I don't know, but yeah, I was happy to just have some friends there that protected me from anything bad happening to me by myself. And once the sun was going down, I was like, oh hell no, I'm not going to stay in a rundown area when it's getting dark outside. So of course, you know, you have to head back to the shelter every night to to stay away from that chaos and that craziness that happens there at nighttime. I wouldn't say that the nighttime is totally different than the daytime there, but there are a lot of groups of men that, you know, stay together, you know, to like plan out like if they want to beat whoever, do this to whoever, do that to whoever, you know. It's just best to not be by yourself and to also not be out, you know, when it's dark outside in that kind of area. Which is common sense, I think. But anyway, yeah, I would not, you know, be homeless on purpose ever, because it's so dangerous, and what someone can imagine it in their head is like, what, you know, it's totally different than what you imagine it is. It's worse than what you could imagine it to be. And I'm just lucky that I was in a homeless shelter and not like living in like a tent or something like that, because oh my gosh, the things that could go wrong when you're living in a tent, and you know, the things they could do to you while you're sleeping, you know. So I just tried to use common sense as much as I could, and stayed out of everyone's way. They have a rule there that you can't videotape anything, because it's like a HIPAA violation or something along those lines. And there were people like, your belongings, if you stayed overnight in the shelter, they would make you put it all in a bag, and then they would like put it in these like locker type things, kind of. And you'd have a number on the bag. In my, for example, 1-1, like they put that on the bag. But what happened to me is, everyone thought I was like, I had a lot of nice stuff because I was like one of the only white women there, and they think white people are rich for some reason. And so my bag got stolen because, someone said, oh, that's my number. And it was my number, but they said it was theirs, and they just like took it and ran. And so that's how some of my stuff got stolen. And there was like a area where they like threw all these like leftover bags full of people's stuff, and outdoor they kept in this little area with a little wall and everything. Well, there were a lot of people that were, while the police weren't around checking things out, people would jump over the wall and grab something and then throw it over and then jump back over, and then they just take the stuff and take off. And I think that's what happened with my stuff, so which I figured would happen. And there was one of the guys that I had been that were in my group where we were protecting each other and stuff. He got caught doing that. He was like, oh, there's my bag right there, and it had like his number on it and everything. And so he jumped over the wall, and in the process of jumping over, the police came out like right on time, and they caught him jumping over the wall. Even though he was grabbing his own bag, he was still breaking the rules. So he got kicked out of Cass Homeless Shelter for doing that. So he had to sleep on the street that night. And what I mean by like the street is, I mean like literally like he had to sleep like on the road with like chain fences around him and stuff. Like, I don't know. There was this area called, I forgot what it was called. It was like the Wash or something like that, they called it. And you go in there if you weren't able to get in the Cass Homeless Shelter, they would let you in there. And there you didn't get a bed, you just had to sleep on the road, basically. And there was like I have to say about 40 to 50 people in there that were all sleeping on the road, and people were trying to steal stuff from me while I was sleeping, but other people were like kind of like, like, hey, like that's her stuff. And I remember one lady offered me a blanket, and so I was like, oh my gosh, this is so nice, I get a pillow and a blanket. And so that was almost like a luxury to me at the time. And so I'd sleep there. I probably had at least a couple hours of sleep. And then, when the sun came up, everyone got up, of course, and, and just like continued throughout the day. And so yeah, and as for guys went, I wasn't really trying to get in a relationship with any guy I met at a homeless shelter, but I had a lot of guys like hitting on me and things like that, and I just kind of ignored it because they have nothing to offer me and they're homeless. So yeah. And so yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed my story of things that I saw and experienced at Cass Homeless Shelter, and a little bit outside of it too. So yeah, love ya.